Well, here we are. I'm making another video that I don't want to, but I find a reason to. As it seems the situation with the Korean game consumer society has sprung up again, and I've seen people treating them like a paragon of virtues and morals. Meanwhile, I believe they're an organization that actively goes against the morals of what they present. They have used bribes for protesters, actively downplayed the heinous acts of misogyny in Korea, have members which have supported harassment, and has a founder that, from what I've seen, is just driven by hate. And that does not even cover everything this organization has done. So that's what this video will be about, discussing how morally bankrupt the Project Moon User Association, now known as the Korean Game Consumer Society, is. But before doing a deep dive into them, allow me to give a summary on what the Korean Game Consumer Society is and how they came to be. Now, this summary will serve more as a version 2.0 of what I discussed in the State of the Internet video, as after that more people reached out to me and gave me stuff that better explained the situation. So with that being said, in case you know nothing about Project Moon, then a brief heads up is they've made these 3 games, the most recent one being Limbus Company, a live service game. Now the context for this time is that Limbus had a lot of issues in it, such as bugs and game balance. Now this caused a lot of unrest for some players of the game, namely the Korean side of the player base. So at this point, a lot of people wanted Project Moon to address the problems the game was having, but after they addressed only 2 of the many issues people were having, they dropped a PV for their upcoming summer event. Right in it, 2 identities, basically gear for characters, were these. On the left you have Sinclair, a dude wearing a swimsuit with a choker, and on the right you have Ishmael, a woman wearing a wetsuit, meant for diving. Now the thing is, Limbus Company is a gacha game, so that being the case, one would expect a ton of fan service to take center stage for a summer event. However, what you see here is a woman fully clothed and the dude being the only one giving out any fan service. Now due to this lack of fan service in regards to Ishmael not wearing a swimsuit, a tiny amount of people, believe me, legitimately a small amount, started to joke that Project Moon is a Magalia game. More on just what that means later. In it you have the male, Sinclair, wearing a choker and in a swimsuit, whilst the female Ishmael is in a wetsuit, so you can't see any of her skin. Therefore, Limbus Company is a Magalia game that portrays men as slaves and women in a light where we are not allowed to see any skin. The game is anti-fan service and therefore a Magalia game. That was a joke which a small amount of people were making, but some were legitimately mad at the lack of swimsuits, not even related to any Magalia connections. But long-term players were not on board for the outrage at the lack of swimsuits, as Project Moon has basically never done fan service. Well, more specifically fan service in a goon or coom or whatever the fuck ooer type of way, which meant that if people made those jokes seriously or were legitimately outraged, they were more than likely not long-term fans of Project Moon, as if anything, long-term fans were surprised to see this white sheet of paper reflecting back at them. But the thing is, if this happened during any normal time, nothing really would have come from it. And that's where the context plays a part. Since players were already so mad at the game, this otherwise forgettable point was being brought up as a negative because, well, people were just saying anything negative about the game. Now that's not to say anyone stating the problems of the game were mad about the lack of swimsuits, as again, long-term fans didn't expect that. It was more so that a forum, in this case DC Inside, was a melting pot of anger to where all discussion was just bashing the game. And amongst this bashing, a small number of people were mad because the waifu wasn't wearing the hot swimsuit. And because a fire was already happening, one dogshit person made a post on the forum, where they looked through Vellmori's Twitter and tried to link her to Magalia, but the thing is, this person was already known as a troll and someone who just hated Vellmori and tried to smear her prior, so people just ignored them and their post was later deleted. However, this caused a spark for others to dig deeper into her Twitter, checking so many of her posts and reposts to see if she was linked to Magalia. And after scanning it, going years back, they found a handful of retweets, some of which were retweeted from Magalia accounts. They also found one like and saw that they were tagged in a post related to a very prominent protest of which Magalia had a part in. And there was also some deleted tweets of hers which raised suspicions of being connected to Magalia. Now later, I'm going to explain the content of these messages and why I believe the resulting harassment from them was so stupid. But because of this supposed relation, one CG she drew was put under scrutiny, which was this one, where you can see Yi Song holding a bottle. However, the way he is holding the bottle looks like the Magalia symbol. Now the hand gesture is an insult towards Korean men, the insult being, you have a small dick. And Magalia is known as an online community and social movement of feminists, who have this symbol representing them. And it is known to be misandrist, as in, imagine how bad the misogyny in Korea is, then take that and aim it towards men. That is what Magalia is known to be. Now this is done as the members would like to show men just how bad women have it in Korea, therefore they go against men heavily. And in terms of the morality behind a goal like that, inflicting suffering onto a group which has done it to you in abundance, I'm not here to take a side on that question. I just want to point out the connotations behind being listed as someone who supports that group. Now to many, showing the symbol means you align with the group and are also insulting Korean men. So people looked at the story art and saw the incredibly damn normal way of holding the bottle, and that made people suspicious that the story artist was a part of Megalia, with the dug up tweets being more basis for that claim. But in response to believing she aligned with Megalia, Vellmori received so much harassment. Death threats were posted about her, sexual harassment, insults. It was terrible. And due to this controversy, the situation started gaining more notoriety. And it was at this time where a group of Project Moon fans went to Project Moon's office. Now, part of this reason was to get an answer to the changes of the game, like the nerf to a character's ego and why one character kept gaining more identities than others. Reason we know this is because we have the full-blown transcript of the interview, and swimsuits were brought up to ask if Project Moon was representing a certain ideology with them, to which the employer responded how the identities are tools to further world building. In other words, they don't fit a certain ideology. And that was the main question they wanted answered in going to Project Moon's office. They want to know if Limbus, or Project Moon as a company, is supporting Megalia. This question being born as, at the time, Project Moon had not talked about the questions of Vellmori being related to Megalia. Now the reason this is important is because it goes into more of the cultural aspect. But here's what I've heard from a Korean talking about this. In Korea, when a game is listed as Megalia, it is considered to be in support of those ideologies, which then pushes away more regular players, as Megalia is known to be very extreme within how they hate men. Now because of this label, there have been times where people have stopped associating with a game due to this fact. An example is Final Fantasy XIV, where a conflict arose between some players who aligned with Megalia and some who were neutral. So the conflict heated up, and because a game master handled the situation in a poor way, Final Fantasy XIV was listed as a Megalia game, and due to that, some controversy arose, where players have voiced dissatisfaction after hearing that it is in support of Megalia, and due to this, some suggested swapping servers from the Korean one. Now this problem grew so big to where Yoshi P, basically the creator of Final Fantasy XIV, had to do an interview stating the shortcomings of the game master in that situation and that Final Fantasy XIV does not align with any particular ideologies, which is an example of how volatile the situation in Korea is. So that is why players were concerned. They did not want the game they love to be listed as one that hates men and supports Megalia. And I want to make the distinction that, from what we know of this group that went to Project Moon's office, they were not attacking Project Moon or the employees of it. After all, the building in which Project Moon's office is in has a security guard, and they let those people into the office to ask questions. And when they were asked to leave, they did, which is an important distinction as people tried to paint this group who went in as those looking to attack Project Moon, but end of the day, it was just fans concerned with the state of the game and if Project Moon has started to align with Megalia. Again, I personally think this is all too much, but that's just how it is in Korea, which is a country that is, without mincing words, currently in a gender war, which meant that many eyes were on Project Moon and what their response would be after it came to light that they hired someone related to Megalia. Would they fire the illustrator and be known as a company that firmly stands against Megalia, or would they keep her there and be known as a company which has an employee who supports Megalia and hates men? Basically, regardless of what they did, so many people were going to hate them. The easiest example I can pull to show the gravity of this situation is, imagine an American company, let's say Blizzard, publicly supported one political party and shunned the other. Now this is not to say that the two situations are equal within all regards, but it is to say that the level of controversy can be considered equal and convey the importance behind basically any stance Project Moon took. Because of this, they sent out a very vague tweet, saying that moving forward, Vellmori's art will no longer be used in later story chapters, the upcoming event aside as that was soon to be released. And due to the popularity of this controversy, the tweet got about 38 million views, for a studio which had their prior game's all-time player count at 7,000. Showing that from this point on, more people in Korea knew about Project Moon due to this controversy than any game they made. And remember what I said about half of the country hating them? Yeah, that was an understatement because this tweet not only made half of the country hate them, it also made 90% of their global audience hate them. Because the thing about the tweet was that it was only in Korean, so the global players had to rely on third parties to translate. People who didn't speak Korean had to pray that a third party would accurately translate word for word all of the nuance in the original tweet without putting in any of their own thoughts or narratives, and that they would be 1000% true in what they had to say. As you could imagine, it was a disaster, which led to many global players hearing the translation that Vellmori was fired from Project Moon because she was a feminist. Now that wording is particular, as when you translate Korean to English, the word magalia is translated as feminist, as English simply does not have a word for it, which then took away the cultural distinction in the wording. Now this pissed off the global players as it meant that they fired an artist because she was a feminist, and many saw the whole catalyst of this happening was people who were pissy about a female character not wearing a swimsuit. And the big evidence behind her hating men was a character she drew holding a bottle fucking normally and some years old retweets. You could imagine that people were not happy, especially as Project Moon's works are known to be pretty feminist in the stories they represent, so it felt like a betrayal to the morals of the stories they've told. Then an article was made which said that Vellmori was contacted over the phone by Project Moon and told she was fired. This article said Vellmori reached out to them and told them that was how she was fired, and being fired in this way violates the labor laws in Korea, which meant the situation shifted from a Magalia issue to an issue of laws being violated. Then this story hit Korean national news, so at this point, most people in Korea knew Project Moon from the story that was being spread around of the company violated labor laws to fire a feminist employee over the phone because people were mad and no swimsuits. And it is important to note that the news stories in Korea which reported on this did not use the word magalia, they said feminist.
쉽게 말해서 페미니스트라 노출이 적고 몸매가 육감적인 여성 캐릭터를 만들지 않았다 이거죠.
Which again, as I've said, swimsuits honestly weren't that big a part of this, but that's what some articles ran with. Now this caused a lot of hate towards Project Moon, understandably so. You shouldn't fire a feminist because of fucking swimsuits. And the global player base had the same outlook as well. Then the situation got a million times worse when the Gyeonggi Youth Union got involved. They alleged that Project Moon broke labor laws with their unjust over-the-phone firing of Vellmori. Due to this, they did an investigation of Project Moon, saying that all of this was for the sake of Vellmori. They're doing this investigation because of the injustice she faced. Then a new group came into the fold, the Project Moon User Association, who, despite the name, isn't filled up with people who worked with Project Moon. Now, I'll be talking about what they did later, but the short part is, they were also against Project Moon for their firing of Vellmori, and wanted to see Project Moon do better. Due to everything that was happening, the news coverage of the controversy, the global outrage, the investigation from the Youth Union because of their supposed unjust firing of Vellmori, Project Moon came back and said anyone who is slandering the company or Vellmori will be sued by them. The global players looked at this and thought it was their way to deflect any criticism of their unjust firing. Sort of like a shield to where if anyone shit-talked Project Moon, they would be sued, as a way to deflect criticism to them. Now, this completely shattered any semblance of a good reputation Project Moon had, and the User Association wanted to deal the killing blow to the company. To do so, they decided to reveal some sensitive documents they had about Vellmori. They had them because Project Moon gave those documents to the Youth Union in the investigation so they could clear up the situation and tell the truth about Vellmori's supposed firing. And in addition to giving the documents to the Youth Union, they also gave them to the Project Moon User Association. Then after the truth was cleared up behind closed doors, Project Moon made an agreement with Gyeonggi and the User Association to where Project Moon would apologize and those two groups would clear up the results of their investigation. Now the thing is, those private documents revealed the truth which heavily went against the narrative that the two organizations tried to paint Project Moon in, that being that they hate women, hate feminism, and will not hire any feminists. As a result, they fired Vellmori because of her ideologies. So in a bid to control the narrative, the Project Moon User Association released those documents so they wouldn't need to admit any wrongdoing. But they were somehow stupid enough to not figure out that the very sensitive documents that, mind you, were being released to the public against Vellmori's wishes from a group that was apparently doing all of this for her. Yet they made those documents public against her wish to hurt Project Moon, but were too stupid to realize that in the documents it literally said Vellmori left of her own volition. She wasn't fired at all. She just didn't want to deal with all the hate that was being thrown at her, so she quit. Let me remind you that the associations went after Project Moon because of their unjust firing. Yet one of those associations, the Project Moon User Association, revealed to the public that she wasn't fired. She quit. Project Moon didn't want to state that publicly, as doing so would have resulted in more harassment being thrown at her. As a misogynist, or people that thought she was a part of Magalia, would think that she didn't suffer enough. So they didn't say they fired her in their tweet, nor did they say that she quit. They just said that her art will not be used in the upcoming story chapters. But due to the vagueness of it and the translations which weren't the best, people thought she was fired, which was the match causing many of the global players to hate the company and many Korean players to think they've sided with misogynists. That was the match causing all of this shit to happen. The thing that made the company explode was, at its core, misinformation. A twisted truth. Meanwhile, in reality, Vellmori quit. Now, to give more background knowledge on just why so many people were mad about Vellmori's repost, I will try to present this as neutrally as possible. So again, the importance behind the repost and such wasn't that they were feminist from a Western perspective, i.e. she tweeted something that's, let's say, pro-choice. Her retweets instead made people think she was linked to Magalia, with one of the bigger pieces of evidence being a tweet in regards to this protest which happened in 2018 that is noted as the most organized and large-scale protest held by Korean feminists alone. Bare bones explanation for it, a woman was caught secretly photographing a man when he was nude and she was promptly investigated and arrested, which is normal, you shouldn't do that. However, when men were caught doing the same thing, they were rarely arrested for it. As for this crime between 2012 and 2017, out of nearly 30,000 male suspects investigated by police, less than 3% were arrested for investigation. Which is why the protest wasn't to defend the woman, but it was against the injustice of how men are treated less harshly by the law in this regard. Now, there is more specifics behind it that the woman was probably more easily convicted as she didn't hide the face of the man and had publicly shamed him on a website. However, the important part is that the protest occurred after Magalia got a really bad reputation in Korea. So being associated with it would cause people to believe you are a part of Magalia due to the social stigma around it. But the sad part is, she never actually reposted anything in support of it. She was just tagged in a post regarding it. Now, the exact specifics behind her, to pull a term I do not even agree with, controversial retweets and likes is that she clicked like on a post saying women need self-defense weapons, which, Jesus Christ, you do. If it's legal in your country, get pepper spray. And she also reposted some tweets from Magalia users, thus causing people to believe she aligned with them. But the thing with this, and why I believe using this as a basis to judge her entire character as stupid is, all of this was done when she was a child. She was a minor. So now I pose the question to you. Would it make sense to take the actions of what someone did when they were a kid and hold it against them when they are an adult? Especially when the actions themselves are just a handful of retweets, one like, and being tagged in a tweet. Now, if she had done these same things as an adult, I would understand being taken back by her actions, but it was done years ago, and there has been nothing in recent time, like the past 5 years, to show a correlation to that or that she is proud of these retweets. Like, if she came out today saying, nah, that shit was based, it would be a different story, but she never did that. And there was misinfo going around that these posts were on her private account of her doubling down. But that's not true, this is an entirely different person, with a member of DC Inside having corrected this misinfo to the person who reported it as such. Now, because she never doubled down, using the tweets as a basis to guess the ideology of how she is as an adult is so fucking stupid. Like, how the hell are you gonna start all this and say she's someone who absolutely hates men and is such a piece of shit due to some retweets she did as a kid? Because I'm just gonna say it, most people have done far worse as a child. If that is the full extent of horrid shit she did as a kid, then I'm about ready to view her as a saint, because I've seen far worse than some retweets. To do all of this and say she's at a career point where she can spread her Magalia ideology and in a result ruin games for men, to say that shit over some fucking years old retweets by a kid is up there with some of the stupidest shit I've seen in a while. So that is the recap of everything that has brought us here. An outrage was formed over some retweets being tagged from a post about a protest and a character holding a bottle. Which is really sad to say, but it does paint a good picture of just how volatile the gender war in Korea is. However, with me having said the recap, there is one point that people are still caught up on. The point that Vellmori quit. Some are still not convinced that she did, saying that it's all a smokescreen made by Project Moon so they were able to get away with firing a feminist. So the best way to show the truth of the matter is to display the evidence both sides have in regards to what happened with Vellmori. So, here's the evidence that she quit. Project Moon gave a certification of contents letter to the Youth Union. In case you do not know what that is, here's the explanation. And since the Korean Game Consumer Society made this public against the wishes of Vellmori, let's read some of it. You can find the entire thing linked below, as well as most things I bring up in this video. 7:25. A call was held with the worker in advance. In the call, the worker first expressed her resignation that the work was unsustainable and she did not want to work. The call was recorded. In a meeting between Vellmori, her lawyer, and Project Moon, without their lawyer as they worried she would have felt threatened by their presence, the meeting accommodated the workers' wishes and needs and reached an amicable agreement. Also, Project Moon is trying best to avoid mentioning the worker and the details of the settlement as much as possible to respect and protect the workers' wishes, which again, is not surprising. Think about it like this. If these fucking lunatics would go so far in harassing Vellmori off of years old retweets, do you think their harassment would have ended if Project Moon came out and said, yeah guys, we reached an agreement that left both parties happy? Or would they possibly continue their harassment after thinking she didn't suffer enough? Anyway, the letter continues. The worker has specifically requested that the facts and details of the settlement not be disclosed. Which again, shoutouts to the Korean Game Consumer Society for just ignoring Vellmori's wishes and constantly asking for the details of it. Later it says, Project Moon terminated the contract of the worker's own free will. Project Moon terminated the contract based on the worker's will, and the agreement was reached with the utmost care and consideration for the worker. And there is no evidence that Project Moon unilaterally terminated the worker unfairly. Also, Project Moon has not responded to the publication saying it was an unfair dismissal since the worker in question wanted the facts and context of the agreement not to be revealed. Now, this was a letter sent by Project Moon to the Youth Union and the Korean Game Consumer Society, which they then made public. So, to look at the response of the Youth Union, in the words of Project Moon, the Youth Union has said that, after reviewing the Certificate of Contents, they have made a wrong judgment. To that, the company has requested the Youth Union publicly clarify and apologize for attempting to draw public opinion without proper verification of the facts. However, they did not make this apology public as it would have hurt the Youth Union's political aims. So, in response to the Youth Union not apologizing publicly, Project Moon kinda pulled a Korean Game Consumer Society and made the Youth Union's apology public. Afterward, we have confirmed in communicating with Project Moon that Project Moon has not participated in wrongful termination against the victim of the ideological verification and cyberbullying damages, and that they have taken appropriate action to protect the worker. Gyeonggi Youth Union apologizes for condemning Project Moon for participating in a wrongful termination, and we withdraw all complaints against its investor. Then, in response to this, a now former member of the Youth Union posted the Youth Union's apology on his personal Twitter account. So, that's the Youth Union, the organization who did the investigation of Project Moon due to them having supposedly fired Vellmori over the phone, admitting that Project Moon did not fire her, even going so far as to praise them. Now you may think to yourself, if all of this is the case, then what about the article which said that, in Vellmori's own words, she was fired by Project Moon? Well, that article was later edited to say she was only contacted about it. Not fired over the situation, just called about it. So, that evidence is shown to be worthless. Now, in a defamation hearing between Project Moon and the Korean Game Consumer Society, an employee named Hwan Min Kim was asked this: Is there any objective evidence or circumstances to support the claim that the plaintiff unfairly dismissed the employee? Kim responds, At that time, many articles about the plaintiff's related unfair dismissal were published, which can be considered objective evidence. So, all of the evidence that the Korean Game Consumer Society had to say that Vellmori was fired was the articles, which were later edited to say that she was only contacted over the phone, not fired. Now keep in mind, they were in court for this, and this was all the evidence they had. Which is weird, as in the response to Project Moon's Certificate of Contents, they said, Also, according to information obtained by our association, we find it difficult to conclude that the worker's resignation was voluntary. Which makes me question just how legitimate this statement is, as they didn't bring up any other evidence in court, just saying that the articles were their source of information. And one thing about this case is that people try to ignore him saying the only evidence they had of her supposed firing was the articles by saying, well, it's a defamation case Project Moon filed against them, but they won it, therefore it's a win for the Korean Game Consumer Society and not Project Moon. And that's not the point though. See, he was in court for defamation, and to prove why he believed Vellmori was fired, he brought up the articles. Now, that's a good defense, as the articles gave everyone a reason to believe she was fired. After all, the article caused the situation to blow up. But just because that's the case, it doesn't dismiss the fact that the only evidence they had was a now edited news article. Hell, even aside from that, they even clarified to Project Moon that they never once used unfair dismissal, only contract termination, which goes to show that these motherfuckers weren't even confident about what they were saying. Now that is all the evidence the Korean Game Consumer Society has to say that Vellmori was fired. The article, the one that was later edited to say she was only contacted about it. That's it. The full extent. The Youth Union saw the Certificate of Contents and apologized to Project Moon, but the Korean Game Consumer Society saw it and said how they never used the term unfair dismissal, and wanted more info to be made public, which was directly against Vellmori's wishes, from a company that was doing this for her. Now from here, you could already see how fucking stupid it is that this video even needs to be made. But here's the thing. It appears to me that all evidence people have to say that Vellmori was fired is simply, anything Project Moon does cannot be trusted. Yep. That's the evidence. They believe Project Moon is a puppeteer for Vellmori and is legally gagging her from speaking out against them. More on why this train of thought is stupid later. But it appears to me that people believe Project Moon is a full-blown black company and the Korean game consumer society is righteously standing up against them. So, with that being the train of thought that the Korean game consumer society is amazing and must be trusted with anything they say, despite their words showing a lack of confidence and saying that Vellmori was unfairly dismissed, but whatever, and that Project Moon must not be believed in anything they say, let's talk about all the fucked up shit the Korean game consumer society has done, and also, let's dive into the members of it. Now, first question, you're protesting a very serious issue about a woman in Korea being possibly unfairly dismissed. So in this case, what is the moral thing to do? To me, it's to inform people of the actual issue at hand, and if they agree with my cause, then we protest it, making sure everyone there actually knows and cares about the very real issue. Now, with that being the case, would it be fucked up to make a hashtag for a protest and say anyone who uses the hashtag will be entered into a raffle to win a gift card? Because that is precisely what the Korean Game Consumer Society did. They made a raffle for engagement on protesting with this hashtag, and you know what? Nothing says noble cause more than needing to bribe people to protest with you. And here's the winners of it. Hopefully they actually knew about what they were protesting and not just posting shit to get money. And on the topic of money, Hwan-min Kim, an employee of the Korean Game Consumer Society, has an interesting philosophy on how to spend your donations. To where after suing and settling in court, he proposes the idea of suing again with the money they make. And repeating this action over and over, cause fuck the victims, I suppose. All that matters is suing what you hate into oblivion. We'll come back to this point later, by the way. Now to discuss Hwan-min Kim further, let's talk about something he loves, children. Well, more specifically, lolly hentai and some suggestive sexual posts that involve real people dressed in a manner befitting that of a kid. Let's dive into this. So on December 26, 2023, the Youth Union made this statement, where they talked about two members they had. Now, member A we'll get into later, though member B left the Youth Union before disciplinary action could be decided on them. What was the reason for that? Well, they did two things. 1. Selling child/youth sexual exploitation material, and 2. Using the name of the Youth Union without the consent of the Youth Union. Now member B is Hwan-min Kim. Here's his tweet talking about the notice from the Youth Union. And what was the material? Well, here's his alt Twitter account. Reason we know it's his alt is because on this account he pretends to be a young lolly and roleplay on it. Now some of those roleplaying tweets have found their way onto his main account and vice versa. One of the tweets that was meant for his alt was this, saying how he reads lolly manga. Also, on his main account, he has likes consisting of Kid Da Vinci wearing nothing but a small swimsuit, this childlike character on a medicine ball, and further evidence of this being the same account is when the founder of the Korean Game Consumer Society explained in an interview what else the advisor of the Korean Game Consumer Society has liked.
He has pressed like on a Twitter post. What the fuck was that? Promoting a lolly hentai comic. Yes, he did that. That is completely true. And he pressed like on that because he knows the artist personally and he wanted to promote her work.
This is only part of the truth, by the way, as he tried to leave out what else people found, until the interviewer brought up more. This caused the founder to trip over his words and explanation, and doing so he said all this.
He supposedly was selling lolly body pillows. And
Oh yeah. That is also partly true. He never sold lolly anime body pillows. He drew them.
yeah, he drew them. Yes.
He didn't draw it. He's not an artist, but he
Now, I believe he meant to say that the advisor of the Korean Game Consumer Society did not sell lolly body pillows, but instead made them. However, since he is not an artist, that leaves some confusion. Now, the actual truth, which the founder was unable to provide, was that he commissioned the artist for the body pillow. And by the way, here's the body pillow in question. Also, the little bit at the end of the message means, hurry up and place your order, so I suppose he had a glowing review of the commission. Or not, as this tweet says, the price for the Dakimakura this time is 90,000 won. We'll be accepting separate custom printing requests later, but the price will be 100,000 won then. This time there are no discounts from the manufacturer, and the unit cost has increased. And the other tweet is, hello, the front side of the Miku design is complete. There might still be some minor touch-ups. The backside is being worked on as a R19 design, and the rough sketch is posted above, so please check it out. We're now accepting purchase requests. The price is the same as before. And in case you're wondering how that was translated, we have a team working on this video, and some members of it speak Korean and English, so this was not machine translated. Now, I would like to call back and say this tweet of him saying that he is selling the lolly body pillow coincides with what the Youth Union alleged against him. Now the funny part about selling this is, brother, it's heavily illegal in Korea. Generally porn is, but there have been examples of police raiding a convention because of a blue archive sob emoji content. Now, maybe this wouldn't apply, I don't know, it's not like I want the person to go to jail, I'm just talking about publicly available things. And I won't be linking to the body pillow tweet archive as a later picture in the archive is completely bare. Though the founder did say that Hwang Kim assisted with making a company that does hentai visual novels. And what's interesting about that is one of their games was cancelled, because it violated the Child Pornography Act of Korea. Now the reason it did is because the Korean Supreme Court ruled that lolly hentai is considered child porn. So unfortunately, his business expanses within the hentai games industry was cut short because the fucking Supreme Court. Moving on from that, the founder tries to explain that while the advisor really loves lolly hentai, he is completely asexual. However, the interviewer then brings up how some of his likes covered real people that were dressed in a very sexual manner. Now the answer the founder gave was he knows all those artists, then correcting himself to say he knows all of those photographers. So keep in mind, this answer was given hastily after the founder tried to leave out what else people found and was said in full confidence when prior he stated that he was unsure if Hwang Kim enjoys lolly hentai or not. Now to me, it seems like he was caught off guard by the interviewer and blurted out that he knows the IRL photographers. Well, the actual case could be that he just said something in the heat of the moment without knowing the full extent of Hwang Kim's likes. Now, if that is not the case, that means he has personally verified all of the IRL sexualized picture the advisor has liked. So, let's go over those likes. A swimsuit taiga cosplay, this ass shot, a woman wearing underwear in the bath, close-up of a woman wearing underwear, and a woman wearing a high school sailor uniform and bloomers with the camera pointed directly at, you know. Now to me, this is a lot of sexualized IRL pics for someone to like on their main. Is it possible that he knew the photographer in all of these photos and liked to support them in the algorithm? Yep. Is it also possible that the founder lied or gave a half-truth after being confronted on this fact? Yep. Now in terms of what I believe is a full case, I don't want to get sued by Mr. Misuse Your Donation funds over there, so I'm good. Oh, also some of his other Twitter likes included a lolly phone case, Lilia from Fate in a catsuit, and a woman getting finger raped. Yep. You'll love to see that coming from a company fighting against misogyny. And that's the thing with this, if someone likes stuff such as lollies being sexualized, then to me it's weird, but it's not something terribly important. I wouldn't go so far as to call someone a pedophile because of it. I would only reserve that for if it relates to IRL pictures or if the person broke laws due to it. And according to the Korean Supreme Court, yeah, they would classify him as such. Now, this also makes some of the IRL picture likes questionable to me, but hey, I personally wouldn't say it's insane for an individual to like that. Now again, the lolly porn is weird as the Supreme Court has ruled that it constitutes child porn, so why would you make a game about it? Though I suppose he doesn't agree with that law. But here's the thing. When you are a public member for an organization that is meant to fight against misogyny, then why are you liking porn of women being raped and childlike characters sexualized on your main account? To me, that feels off. At the very least, it shows a lack of professionalism for the members of an organization that would require them to be taken seriously. In response to this being made public and him resigning from the youth union before they could punish him like they did member A member of the Korean Game Consumer Society, Lee Jong-chang, had this to say. That what they were doing, of calling out member B for liking lolly, is completely identical to what DC Inside did against Vellmori. And honestly, fuck the lolly shit, what the hell is wrong with you? You took a serious situation in which a woman was harassed and sent death threats due to years-old retweets. Now you decided to downplay this issue and equate it to people not wanting to associate with someone who finds hentai of childlike characters hot? Really? Is that how little fucking respect you have for the victim who has been harassed so much? Yeah, just love to see the morals of people who will reduce the importance of what Vellmori went through to defend their boy getting flack for liking children. Man, absolute brilliance on display from the Korean Game Consumer Society. I'm sure in between this and making documents public against Vellmori's wishes, they really care about what happened to her. And by the way, the two situations are not even close to the same thing. It's as I said prior, if Vellmori came out in recent time to say, hey, those retweets are based, I still have that ideology, then it would be a different story entirely. But there was no connection between her and those retweets she did as a kid. Meanwhile, the lolly porn shit was being actively defended by Hwan Min Kim, so you can tell his current morals align with what people believed to be controversial. They're not in the same ballpark. So on the topic of Zhang Chang-li, let's talk about him. He was member A that the youth union was talking about. What did he do? Well, according to the youth union, 1. Making statements supporting the criminal act of selling child and adolescent sexual exploitation material. 2. Unauthorized leaking and publication of confidential information of the youth union. And 3. Threatening a member of the National Assembly. He was going to be suspended for 10 months due to these actions, but he decided to leave and join the Korean Game Consumer Society instead, as I suppose they welcome people such as this with open arms. Now, in case you aren't convinced that member A is Zhang Chang-li, here's his fucking paragraph about his situation and his take on what the youth union did to him. But there is a point of clarification to make in regards to the stated threat. Here is the explanation from the founder.
Zhou Chun-li, the member of the Korean Game Consumer Society, is a registered member of the Korean Democratic Party. Collected a number of cosigns, basically, and the cosigns were a form condemning the congressperson's words and actions, and requesting the Democratic Party to put the congressperson to an ethics court. Zhou Chun-li worded that as a said congressperson will be getting a not so welcome package in the mail.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
Yeah. And then the fucking neckbeards of Archilive and DC Inside decided to mass report that to the police as a bomb threat.
And to me, yeah, that's fair. He didn't do anything wrong. Stupid to have worded it the way he did, but I wouldn't say he meant for a bomb threat to be called in and make its way to national news. Granted, there is more context, as the actual tweet of him clarifying the letter came after his initial vague one, which could be reasonably interpreted as a threat. And during this time, many political attacks were happening, so Korean police were on higher alert than normal, which is also why the cops went after him. However, the reason as to why the charges were dropped is likely that the person he made the threat against gave him leniency for what he said. However, this context was thrown away to just say, incels did it because they hate us, and more on why the founder likes this narrative later. And now that the interview is brought up, let's dive into it and display the character behind the founder of this organization. Also, in case you think this isn't the founder, the same channel, Audible Noise, did another interview with him that includes facecam, so there you go. Now before seeing these interviews, I want to stress one fact. This is the first interview we have ever seen from the Korean Game Consumer Society in the West. They have not done a Western interview before this. So think about it like this. Your actions here will be the first look into the people behind the organization. Thus, some level of professionalism should be expected so you don't make your group look like a collection of clowns. Now with that in mind, let's see how the founder of the Korean Game Consumer Society conducts himself. So, he begins by saying the 3 biggest gaming companies in Korea all have nothing but males in a position of leadership, thus leading them to value the opinion of fringe communities in Korea more, namely, in his words, the incel communities of Archilive and DC Inside. Now, this labeling is weird to me, as when it comes to Archilive, he has an account on it. In the second interview, he stated just what the account was used for: hentai. And for the sake of transparency, let's talk about the hentai he shared and pirated on this account of his. So the name of it is Late My Cupcake, further confirmed that it's his account by his good friend Gootarts, tying his Twitter handle to it, and also in the second interview he specifically talks about one of these hentai games. But the ones he's played are Cheer Up Chika-chan, if you don't split the board into 200 pieces you'll be punished. Now from what I know of this game, you play a lolly, and if you cannot break 200 boards via martial arts, you will be raped. Also, here are the tags of it. Sharing is caring means gangbang, by the way. Another game is Pinky Promise Lolita, noted as a matrimonial lolly utopia of sexual love for fans of purity and youth. Jesus Christ. The Imperial Gatekeeper is another one. Apparently it's Papers, Please 2, but with sex. Weird, but the tags of it, which I had to make a goddamn account on a porn site to see the full fucking list of them, but the interesting tags are rape, slave, blackmail, corruption, male domination, and humiliation. Then there's Holy Knight Rika, a game that, from what I've googled of it, involves you, the female protagonist, going off and fighting various monsters, in the process being raped by them, beaten by them, and murdered by them. Necrophilia is one of the tags. Now there's also the Mercenaries Adventure, which is another rape game. Also, his account has commented on some certain posts of Archilive, including what looks to be a lolly game, another rape game, an Eevee being raped, and some mods for the Rika hentai game. Now, what's the point of all this? Well, here's how I view it. If you like this stuff, go off, I suppose. I won't view you to be a devil for playing these games. What happens behind closed doors shouldn't be judged all that much. And that is where the distinction lies. As in the second interview, he has shown that he's completely fine with talking about this stuff. After all, he called the Chica game really fun. So now that he's brought this up publicly and has shown he's still completely fine with talking about how he's played it, I now find the reason to question it. If he showed regret or didn't want to bring it up, then it would be a different story. But since he seems proud of it, here we are. Whilst for something like his account on a website to get video game cheats, I don't care to bring that up as he's apologized for it. So he obviously doesn't like that part of his past, and that's why I don't wish to place any water in it. Granted, he did say he never used it after middle school, which is weird as the last activity on the account was in early 2023, but maybe it wasn't to get any cheats, I don't know. And even if he did get some cheats, to me, I don't see how that relates to what the organization wishes to do. Some people have said how in Korea, someone that calls himself a good game consumer would never use cheats, but to me, I don't know. I don't view that as all that important. Granted, I feel as though it's more of a cultural thing, as Korea takes cheating in games much more seriously than we do in the West. So I've heard it point out that how the hell are you going to be an organization for gamers when the founder of it looks to be down with cheating, which I can understand. So some may view it as heavily against his position and company, which would then breed more reason for criticism about his apparent cheating in games. But I don't fully feel that, and instead place the aim for criticism with him being open to loving rape and lovely hentai. I find that relates more to his position within the company than cheating in video games does, but I do understand the criticism for him cheating in video games. And it's because of this reason to where if he was a normal everyday person, then I wouldn't really question him liking rape porn all that much, as some people be freaky, that's just how life is. But when you are the founder of a feminist organization, I will view you a little different when I know you like seeing games in which women are beaten to death to then have their corpses be raped. And also that you enjoy lolly games when the Supreme Court of Korea has ruled that such things constitute child pornography. But above all, that's not even the important part. I mainly wanted to use this to highlight how he calls people on Arcalife incels as he has a history of being on it. Basically, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. Which is especially funny as here's the spokesperson of the Korean Game Consumer Society saying that the country would be a better place if the people who go on that website, in addition to many others like it, would just drown themselves in the sea. So all I'm saying is, founder, do not go swimming in the sea with this person. If they invite you to the beach, they may have ulterior motives. Also, here's Jong Chung Lee pulling up to say the site fosters antisocial behavior. And here's Hwan Min Kim coming in with the supportive saying how Arcalife assholes are dumber and more arrogant than he could ever imagine. Brother, at this point, I'm beginning to think your own people are subtweeting you. Fuck, even Jong Chung Lee says that fixing a flaw doesn't make it go away with time, so he's already pegging your ass as an antisocial Arcalife incel. But the interviewer asks, have you ever spoken to Vellmori? And here's his answer.
No, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were never able to establish contact with Vellmori.
Yep, they were never able to establish contact with Vellmori, which, upon hearing that, makes me question just what the fuck I am making this goddamn video for, but here we are. Now he says they couldn't get to her before she was probably legally gagged. Keep that wording in mind. But he later says a DC Inside incel reported him for violating the Donations Act in Korea. In response to this, he doesn't say he didn't violate it, but instead says that the police found him not guilty, which is weird wording to me, but if he was found not guilty, then he was found not guilty. Then he states that they have not misused donation funds and the 11 million won that went missing was his lawyer's funds, found within the second interview. Then when it comes to the defamation lawsuits, he says that all three have been dropped. Keep in mind, in Hwan Min Kim's lawsuit is where he says that all evidence he has of Vellmori being fired was just the news article, which makes a lot of sense when you realize he never once spoken to her. Later he says,
No fucking shot. Their lawyers are shit. God,
So
Project Moon's lawyers are a pile of god.
So turns out, Project Moon's lawyers are dogshit. More on this one later. But he says that Namuwiki and Arcalife hate them.
Fucking fucked up Korean version of Wikipedia named Namuwiki.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
on there.
the people who are writing those hate us with their guts.
Yeah, I can tell.
Because if you do you know the website, the community website called Arcalive?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's basically Korean 4chan. Every single racist, every single misogynist, every single basement dwelling neckbeard in Korea lives there. So that's the website that was made by the creators of Namuwiki. Yeah, Arcalive and NomWiki are owned by the same entity, and they all fucking hate us. So that's why if you go into NomWiki and search about these allegations, they're all just complete misinformation.
Also, that Arcalife has every single racist, misogynist, basement-dwelling neckbeard in Korea resigning there. And also him, I suppose, a shining beacon in an otherwise terrible site, someone who only comments on Pokemon being raped by humans. Then he says how the website is set up to evade Korean law and uses that as a springboard to state that everything on NamuWiki is misinfo. Which, here's the thing when it comes to that. On NamuWiki and Arcalive, I've seen posts about the Korean Game Consumer Society, and in them, brother, they just link the public statements of the organization. I'm sure some of them are misinfo, hell, maybe even a lot of them, but if someone says you did something, then puts a link showing you did it, how the hell is that misinfo? Regardless of if they hate you or not, if they just show your public actions, that's on you. And by now, I hope it's obvious just what he's trying to do. He's trying to paint all these websites as only haters, that whatever they say must be disregarded because every single person on it is an incel or racist, etc. This demonizing is something you see over and over, where people try to paint a crowd as terrible to wipe away anything they have to say. But the idiot doesn't realize that, brother, they're just linking to shit you've done. If you hate the fact that people brought up you liking lolly and rape porn, then you don't need to have the thread containing evidence of that deleted. Just regret the fact that you made your taste public. But hey, maybe he didn't have the thread deleted and the original poster just decided to take it down because they were worried when the founder was saying over and over that he'll sue people for bringing this up. Which, by the way, if you want to sue me for this video because I've seen people bring it up to you that I'm making it, then that would be the dumbest fucking decision you can make. But it also does coincide with what I've seen of your character, so I wouldn't be surprised. But hey, don't blame me. I'm just showing public records and agreeing with what you've admitted to in interviews. After all, you did give a glowing review to the board-breaking one in the second interview. Then at the end, he says how he wants to be in talks with Project Moon, and for whatever reason, Project Moon does not want to talk with them. Let me also remind you that this is the same organization which, after getting the certificate of contents from Project Moon, made it public against Vellmori's wishes. So, yeah. It's truly a wonder as to why Project Moon doesn't wish to talk to them. He also says how you can contact him via Discord. It's rather easy to, as he's in the Project Moon community hub, and says that Audible Noise is the only person who asked for an interview in the West. Now, let's move on to the second interview. Unlike the first, this one actually has really good info and a face cam to fully confirm that what is being said is coming from the founder of the Korean Game Consumer Society. It kicks off with him saying how much he used to love Project Moon games and how he idoled the creator of the company, Kim Jae-hoon. He was like a role model to him. And last year is what made him stop idolizing Jae-hoon. Then he expressed regret that Jae-hoon is not answering his calls. Wouldn't be able to tell you why. It's not like last time you leaked private documents or something like that. And apparently the reason he founded the organization, as in the entire reason the Korean Game Consumer Society even exists, is because he wanted Jae-hoon to talk to the Korean community. Also, anger played a big role, but to help quench that anger, he wanted a talk with him. Unfortunately, some documents were leaked after that talk, but who's really counting here? Now, after the lawsuits in regards to the Wonderlab artist and Leviathan artist with Project Moon are settled, he doesn't have anything left to do with them, which I suppose also includes Vellmori, so to my understanding he's saying that ordeal is settled, there's no more progress to be made. He then wishes to make reports showing what gaming is like for disabled people and that he's in talks with the Korean governing body on video games. So basically, he wants to make gaming accessible to everyone. It's a very good goal to have. For disabled people, people of color, LGBTQ people, I do respect what the organization wishes to do. Now, here are some completely unrelated tweets from Hwanmin Kim that people supporting the group he was a part of were not happy to see. The full quote's on screen, but the part I really like is, if privileged brats in Gangnam want to act all progressive, please, I beg you, go down a level and study a bit before you come. You damned motherfuckers. Hey, you bastard, who has nothing going on for you except being bored and seal. I don't care if you're gay, lesbian, or heterosexual, just cough up the money. Huh? Cough it up, you bastard. Unless you want to be turned into a piece of skin pierced front to back with a bamboo spear. The privileged brats think they could get away with anything just because they're a sexual minority, but don't forget, in the moment of revolution, you could all die. I'll pierce you from your anus to your mouth with a skewer. Well, at least he's passionate. Then Audible Noise calls to the Shift Up incident, and the founder says how their organization did not yet have the broad and general goals to handle that case, which is really unfortunate as the Shift Up case was fucking terrible. It really displays just how hopeless life is for many Korean women, as that case, which happened far in the past but was brought to the public on July 24, 2023, detailed how a new employee was sexually assaulted by an executive of the company. However, she didn't have room for legal recourse as, by that time, the statute of limitations was reached. However, an interesting part about this is, in revealing this to the public, the employee did not say it on Twitter. Instead, the place they revealed it was Archilive. Now, the post displayed solid evidence, such as her business card, emails, and text messages, showing how she was in fact an employee of ShiftUp. And later in the post, she revealed that the executive said she didn't know what love was, and he would be the one to teach her. Now, he led her on with the promise of getting to meet the CEO, and you could imagine the business opportunities she thought of from that chance. And because of this, she worked till 4 a.m. for many days, in the process becoming closer to the executive and even having sex in the office with him. Later, when she had hurt her hand, the executive said, "Do you want to ruin the company? Do you want to be labeled and not be able to go anywhere else?" And he belittled her work. So to be specific in what happened, an employee was gaslit into having sex by promises of greater career opportunity, and her hard work was paid in kind by verbal insults and a refusal to accommodate her after her hand was injured on the job. So in other words, she was used like an object for sex, and when she couldn't support the company, was just insulted by the person who told her so many lies. It's fucking terrible. And in response to this being posted on Archilive, the website the founder says was full of nothing but racists, incels, misogynists, they had this to say: "Eat strong. Make all those who made you unhappy eat the price. I hope you survive and be happy. Everyone here is on your side. Cheer up. This is so disgusting. If you get sued, please open a fundraiser. Hang in there. Hang in there till the end. Now, the one who endures and survives wins. Right now, you are definitely at an advantage. I sincerely hope you stay strong. Please, stay alive." All of this among hundreds of comments in support. But I'm sure everyone here actually hates women, all because they don't like the Korean game consumer society. We should also ignore how Archilive has more active users in Korea than fucking Twitter does, because at the end of the day, every person on it is an incel. Same goes with Namuwiki as well. Scum of the earth only reside there, yet they are one of the few websites to display what happened in this case, going so far as to making a wiki page about the executive and talking about what they did. But again, I'm sure we shouldn't trust what this has to say. After all, it's from Namuwiki, so just because of that, I'm sure it must be wrong. Now, this may be your first time hearing about this if you're from the West. After all, when I Google it, I get results not related to ShiftUp at all. To say this is buried is by far an understatement. But one of the reasons is because a few days after the story came out, the Vellmori situation happened. So, due to the publicity about that, not many people were able to hear the story of the employee who was gaslit for sex and thrown away the second she received a workplace injury. But the Korean Game Consumer Society, one which strives for helping these victims, did nothing. They were too busy gaining donation funds to put a protest outside of Project Moon's restaurant, but couldn't expend any effort to make the story of an employee being used have a shred of the publicity the Vellmori situation did. Thankfully, the employees of the Korean Game Consumer Society did talk about it. Jong Chan-lee had this fucking dismissive tweet to say in response to it. Then Hwan-min Kim had this to say: "In the end, there are no victims left, only controversy. Many people who are outraged about issues like, why did this get buried when it's worse than Limbus, don't seem to find the dismissal in the Project Moon case as problematic. As long as this is the case, labor rights issues will continue to go in circles. Strictly speaking, companies like ShiftUp and DevSiders mostly adhere to labor laws." Yeah, I'm sure labor laws is what's really important to bring up to an employee being lied to and used for just sex, thrown away and belittled afterwards. His other tweet was, "I don't know what you consider to be truly serious cases, but the dismissal case at ShiftUp was one of those common cases that many in the industry have heard and experienced. Right now, the only solution is to form unions and fight. Closing down a business division requires a full-scale struggle to force the managers to yield. Man, if only there was one organization who could have spent a bit of effort to make this case more known. But I suppose the Korean Game Consumer Society was more focused on tackling the Vellmori situation, as there was a ton of reason to. After all, it's not like the youth union was already doing an investigation of it. Nah, I'm sure we really needed the morally righteous people in the Korean Game Consumer Society to focus on this. I'm really glad it seems like one person's hatred towards his ex-idol was not the sole driving factor behind this organization being formed, instead of actually, caring about victims. Just like how the victim in the case causing its founding was not contacted by the founder. They were unsure on if she was even fired, and they also made documents public against her wishes. But thankfully, it seems they really care about all victims. Just maybe not the ShiftUp one, as after all, ShiftUp broke no labor laws, because that's the crux of what's happening here. Let's go back to the interview where he quickly shifts topics from this to talk about how they helped publish 3 articles recently. But what he did not say is that the articles, there are 6 in total, all revolve around the same premise. to where it's not that there are 6 different articles, it's more that one person posted a similar article 6 times and they helped with that. Now, as to why he did not clarify that distinction, we'll never know, I suppose. Maybe saying they helped post 6 articles sounded better, I couldn't tell you. But when asked if he thinks Vellmori was fired or resigned, he said that he still does not know. Now, he believes she did not quit on her own volition, which is amazing to hear. Now, I believe I can run faster than Usain Bolt. See, unfortunately, our beliefs do not equate to truths within reality. But he states that they cannot legally say Vellmori was fired, they can only imply it, like they did for their recent donations advertising. But the evidence as to why they believe she may not have resigned of her own free will is the article we talked about prior. That was changed. And now he said it was changed not because it was inaccurate, but instead because of how bullshit Korea's defamation laws are. Which again, interesting to hear, but why is he certain that it was changed just due to the defamation laws, instead of the possibility that it was changed due to not being accurate? I'm curious as to where that confidence comes from. I mean, shit, it's not like Vellmori fucking told him what really happened. For whatever reason, she never talked to him. But he says that even if she resigned, further showing that he doesn't have proof behind the article being correct, as if it was, then there would be no reason to believe she could have resigned. But anyway, he says that if Project Moon just did better, then there would be no reason for her to resign. Now, as someone who knows how harassment on the internet works, especially for very sensitive cases like this, I'm curious as to what he would have wanted to see Project Moon do.
Last year's July 24th, 25th, when all the allegations were going around, when all the cyberbullying was going around, Project Moon came up and said, hey, you fucking incels, just stop it. Stop cyberbullying her, she has done nothing wrong. If Project Moon came out and said that, would she have had to quit?
Are you brain dead? Fuck the question of would she have had to quit. My question is, would she be alive if they did that? See, here's the thing. When it comes to harassment, the surefire way to make matters 1,000,000 times worse is to come out and say fuck you to the group which is already sending death threats. It reminds me of the Bunny Girl event in Honkai Impact 3rd, where seeing players got really mad at it, and due to that being the case, someone tried to assassinate the creators of miHoYo. And after seeing that happen, miHoYo apologized and stopped the event from airing on the global side. Now, what do you think would have happened if miHoYo came out to say that these CN players outraged are all incels? Because in my personal opinion, I think some employees were going to be murdered. So when it comes to the Vellmori situation, where we already saw people go into Project Moon's office, showing that its location was public knowledge, and where we can see the founder even has a drive full of death threats sent to her, what do you think would have happened if Project Moon decided to call everyone against them an incel? Because I don't know what fairy tale you live in, but I think people would be assaulted. Especially Vellmori, as from what I've seen from the founder, he has a drive full of death threats and harassment against her. So yes, wonderful plan to piss off the group of people that already hate her before she's even said anything. Yeah, we're really thinking with our noggins, aren't we? Which is why I still don't like the Korean Game Consumer Society wanting Project Moon to come out and say Vellmori did nothing wrong, for 2 reasons. One is, they never fucking said she did anything wrong. After all, the controversial art they made is still unchanged in the game. Now they say Project Moon implied she did something wrong as their original statement of theirs may possibly seem that they were implying as such. And you know what? You need to jump through a lot of hoops to come to that conclusion in spite of the fact they never changed our art, but sure, let's say that's the case. Now this brings me to 2. If Project Moon came out now, like today, to say that she did nothing wrong, do you think that would stir up more controversy against Vellmori? It's been more than a year since this happened. Do you think she would appreciate being brought into this controversy again? Getting death threats again? I'm asking if you think that, as after all, you don't really have a line of communication with her, so it's not like that goal of Project Moon saying she did nothing wrong was born from her wishes. This all just seems like the type of shit you want to see. But yeah, no, I'm sure. Project Moon should just dredge up this situation again to say that anyone who went against Vellmori is a dumb incel fuck. As we all know, the way to quell a fire is by drowning it in gasoline. But yeah, I'm sure Project Moon just hates the artist so much to where they would refuse to anger the group which has already sent her death threats, like you're so willing to do. Now I don't blame him for shit-talking that group. After all, I'm joining in on that shit-talking. The people who harass Vellmori are legitimately dog shit people, fucking morons, idiots. But there's a difference between us saying that and the organization officially dredging up this situation from a year ago with a statement that would cause more harassment. Now later, Audible Noise brings up a moment where Project Moon noticed harassment towards an artist and Jihoon immediately stepped in. That being when this chibi was shown. People were speculating that it was Vellmori, and as you can imagine, some certain crowds were not happy about that. Which goes to show that provided Project Moon decides to bring this up again with insulting that crowd, there is sure to be more fires. Now the tweet said, Continued maligning based on these speculations is harming our fans and the employee responsible for that art style. Please note that, should the malicious spreading of rumors regarding the art style and its use continue, we will take stern action on a company level against it, as in they will prove that it's not the case. So this is a prime example of Project Moon explaining a situation and in doing so protecting the employee and stopping harassment, without needing to call people incels like Megamind over there would love to do. So what do you think his reaction upon seeing this was?
Yeah, this does not put Kim Ji-hoon in any better light, because this is just saying that, hey, the SD art in part 6 is not done by Vellmori. That's all they're saying right here.
But people were attacking the artists or possible harassment.
Yeah, so the possible harassment was directed at Vellmori, not another artist. I've seen the harassment going on firsthand as a first-hand language speaker, and the harassment was going at the company because they thought they were using art by Vellmori, which they fucking hate.
So let me get this right. He says that people were mad at Project Moon as they thought they were using Vellmori's art, and they hate Vellmori. So when Project Moon shut this down, people hating on Vellmori, he was mad at this? And said it doesn't count? Would it have been better if they did nothing and people were still mad at Vellmori? Would he be singing praise if Project Moon did nothing to stop others from spitting on her name? Like, what the fuck do you want?
So you don't think Kim Ji-hoon improved?
Yeah, not at all.
Oh,
Because one of our requirements to Project Moon was that show us and tell us how you'll improve on protecting your employees.
They already showed you how. The way they went about protecting Vellmori was by not publishing the certificate of contents like your organization did, and by not coming out to insult those who hate her like you want them to do. It's like putting someone in a cage with a hungry bear and then you're being mad at them because they refused to poke the bear, which is precisely what you did. You emboldened the situation more by making the documents public against Vellmori's wishes, and now you're getting pissy that Project Moon wants to let the hate against Vellmori die down instead of stoking the flames? Like you're so willing to do all of this according to not Vellmori's wishes, but I suppose your own? Now he says she's under a strict NDA, implying that it is legally gagging her. And let me break down as to why I find placing huge importance on this NDA is weird. So when the Vellmori controversy started heating up, it was at the same time the CEO of Project Moon, Kim Ji-hoon, was in Japan for the Tokyo Game Show. And mind you, he is not just the CEO of Project Moon. He made the company and also has 90% of stocks in it. So it's pretty apparent that any decision for the health of the company probably will be vetted and determined by the founder, CEO, and the person who has 90% of its stocks. Which then begs the question, if he was in Japan at the time, how would he be able to assist in making a, as one commenter put, Disney-esque NDA? As again, I feel like most decisions would be vetted by him, but with him being in Japan at the time, one would imagine it would lengthen the process of making an ironclad NDA. Now, if the lawyers of Project Moon purely handled the NDA, then I could see how they would make an unbeatable one that would silence Vellmori from saying they did anything wrong. But that brings me back to the first interview where the founder said that Project Moon's lawyers are dog shit. If they're so ass, then how would they have been able to make an unstoppable NDA in such a short amount of time? However, even above all that, let's talk about whistleblower laws in Korea. And before anyone comes in to say, you're a Westerner, so how can you speak on this with confidence? Motherfucker, the Korean people in the team helped and provided me with these links about the law. But prior to diving into the laws, let's set the stage by traveling into the mind of the Korean Game Consumer Society founder. So after we navigate past all the lolly and rape porn, let's say we're in the scenario that I believe the founder thinks is what happened. Where in this reality, DC Inside freaks out about Vellmori. Ji-hoon then fires her because I don't know if the reason would be that he hates feminists or that he's worried his incel fan base is now turning on the game, but either or happens and Vellmori is unfairly dismissed, and in doing so they break labor laws in Korea. Now from here, Project Moon's lawyers lock the fuck in and make an NDA that would have Walt Disney nutting in his grave. And because of that, Vellmori cannot talk against Project Moon even though they broke labor laws. Now this may not be entirely what he believes happened, but to me this seems to be what he thinks. Again, thinks as he doesn't actually know. But see, there's a problem here. The problem is that, in Korea, you can break NDA and whistleblow if you make a report in public interest. Now, public interest reports are defined as means to file a report of, make representations of, provide information about, make a complaint, or bring a charge of the fact that any act detrimental to the public interest has been committed or is likely to be committed, or to provide a lead for investigation into any act detrimental to the public interest to persons such as employer, relevant administrative agencies, or investigative agencies. Now, a company breaking labor laws would fit underneath this category, so an NDA wouldn't stop Vellmori from speaking about this. Furthermore, as per the certificate of contents, when Project Moon was talking to Vellmori, she had her lawyers with her and Project Moon did not have their own lawyers, which even further makes me question just how this NDA would be so ironclad. After all, her lawyers, supposing she was unfairly fired, had immense leverage. Now, if you think she may not have broken the NDA and sued due to the harassment she would receive, the law specifically says how she'd be protected and her identity kept confidential. Again, even further supported by how Project Moon did not wish to make public any legal details with Vellmori, a la certificate of contents that we only have because of the Korean Game Consumer Society. But it is important to note that if Vellmori did this, she could be sued for defamation. As in Korea, you can sue for defamation in these cases, which has happened before. In one case, someone reported corruption, and after whistleblowing, they were given money to hire lawyers. Then, after being sued by the people they reported against, they applied for the same fund, the Corruption Report Relief, and were paid to hire lawyers to defend them in that defamation case. Then, in another case, someone reported corruption in the military. Afterwards, they were sued for defamation, and they lost the lawsuit, sentenced to 6 months in prison. That is, until they appealed and the literal Supreme Court of Korea ruled that it is a matter of public interest, even if it is indicated for defamation of a superior under the Military Criminal Act. It should not be punished as in the case of general defamation, referencing Article 310 of the Criminal Act, which states that defamation is not punishable if the statements are true and made solely for the public interest. Meaning that in Korea, even if a statement is true, it has to be made for public interest for the one making the claim to avoid defamation charges, which again, I believe Vellmori would have fallen underneath that category, as it would be good for the public to know that an employer would just fire you out of the blue and violate labor laws so readily. So would she be able to win a defamation case if she came out with this knowledge? We can't say for certain, but based on legal precedent and Project Moon's lawyers apparently being dog water, yeah, I'm thinking her chances are good. Which is why I don't really believe there to be much importance behind this NDA, as if we're going by the reality of what the founder thinks may have possibly been the case, it would have been made when Vellmori had the upper hand with her lawyer. Then she also would have known that the NDA wouldn't have prevented making public cases of, well, public interest. So that's why I think implying anything huge from the NDA is fruitless. Now, he says important things that I'll touch upon later, but in regards to Joo-hoon posting out these screenshots shittily scribbled out at 3 AM, he says this.
We have better legal documents and better evidence that backs up our position. Obviously, we're not gonna post it on the World Wide Web. We're not gonna post documents that are supposed to be going to the court on the World Wide Web.
Okay.
Unlike someone.
Motherfucker, need I remind you, you've literally done this already. Regardless, he later says how he wants Project Moon to say that Vellmori did nothing wrong, which I've already covered, but he says that they've already told the Korean Game Consumer Society that in legal documents, but not public ones. And he states how he wants this to be said publicly, which again, makes me further question just how fucking stupid this person is. You already had Project Moon clarify that they did not terminate her contract because she did anything wrong, but then you want them to make this public. Are you unaware of how that would cause more harassment? However, even beyond that question, I just don't think he gives a fuck. As when Audible Noise asked him if the truck protest may have stressed out the employees of Project Moon's restaurant, he says that he doesn't see how that would be the case. Really? If someone was outside of your workplace with a truck and banners in protest, would that not put you a little on edge? Or could it possibly embolden people into wanting to take it a step further and enter the building? Like how his good friend he shouted out in the first interview, Gootarts, wanted people to enter the restaurant and show the Magalia hand symbol to see how Joo-hoon would react. Like, are the results of your actions somehow so lost on you to where you cannot fathom how a protest held directly outside of someone's workplace, where they have like 5 employees in total, could lead to stress? Really? But then he says how the truck protests haven't done much to spread the controversy as it was already well known at the time. This is true, I mean it was on national news. But how can you not understand that a protest paints a little target of, that right there is the thing we dislike, and from there very public protesting may embolden such people. Also, we need to factor in the account of not everyone that was knowledgeable of the situation knew that Ham Ham Pong Pong was a restaurant of the company that is currently embodied in controversy. As in, people can know the situation, but maybe did not fully tie the name Project Moon to it as they haven't looked into the case all that much. I mean, it's not like everyone who hears of a controversy immediately knows every single bit about it. After all, you see that in spades with idiots pointing towards an edited article as proof that Vellmori was fired. So you can imagine how the truck protests may have emboldened people against Project Moon and just why the workers of the restaurant could have been scared. Or, if you're the founder, I suppose that's impossible. And to be clear, I'm not saying these shouldn't have protested. If there's a cause you believe in, it makes sense to protest for it. But I'm pointing out the negligence within saying how that couldn't have caused stress. The founders are either too foolish to really understand the weight of their actions, or they can't admit any wrongdoings. In fact, maybe they always think they're in the right. And a part of me thinks that's the case. Now, something I've always thought to myself is that people are incredibly complex, to where acting as if you know the content of someone's character after just a few interactions with them is stupid. Now, I'm not saying you can't take the actions of someone and see how that shows their character. I mean, let's say I'm outside with an acquaintance and some stranger bumps into them. If the acquaintance bursts out in rage, then yeah, I can make the inference that they got a short temper. But I don't like assuming the entirety of someone's character from so little. After all, who knows, maybe it was just a bad day for them. But I don't see that level of nuance all that much on the internet. I mean, I've seen times where someone made a mistake in how they drew a character, and that launched a harassment campaign against them, with everyone saying how the person is such a piece of shit, racist, crazy, you get the drill if you've seen any controversy on the internet. Now, all that was a preface to me saying that, from what I have seen about the founder within these interviews and from how the Korean Game Consumer Society has conducted itself, including the actions of the members, I personally don't get the impression that he cares about reducing harassment. I think he just wants to be right. Now, I wouldn't say this is his entire character. After all, I've never talked to the person, so I couldn't fully tell you. Maybe he really does care. But what I've seen from him paints a different reality to me. Which brings me to what he said about midway through the interview.
I want to clarify this. The Korean Game Consumer Society is not using Mongu or Mimi. Mongu contacted me first, like days after the Project Moon User Association was formed. Like literally in a few days, like 4 or 5 days after we announced that we're forming the Project Moon User Association, Mongu called me and we started working together on various issues. I took a close to 3-hour train ride to go meet her. And we talked. She told me about all the unfair proceedings and like overworking in Project Moon. And then Mimi contacted us. So we started working together from the very start because the artist contacted me first and asked for help. So
both artists? Both artists?
Yes, both artists. Both artists contacted me first. I never went to them.
Why the hell would you say that? Within this interview, you specifically went over the death threats and harassment Vellmori received. So with that being the case, you have to know just how much harassment can come from you revealing this information publicly. As prior, the artist had the anonymity of the organization contacted them and goaded them into this. But now you specifically said how that isn't the case. And because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if they get harassed for going against the company. I personally don't think they should be harassed. If they have a problem with Project Moon and don't want them using their art, then to me, that problem is between them. No room for me to shut down one specific party. I can of course look at the laws and say which side I believe in more, legally speaking, but I personally don't like the idea of invalidating the artist's wishes. But some insane people would, and from you stating that, harassment against them can happen, when the alternative was just keep quiet and people would have less reason to be mad at the artist. And the worst part is, I believe I put more thought into this than fucking you did. Cause here's the thing, the channel that was doing these interviews, Audible Noise, well, they're not some random channel. You see, people asked me if I was going to interview the founder of the organization, and I said I was going to. But the actual truth was that I already did. Remember that team I talked about prior? Well, Audible Noise is a part of that team. In fact, the person who gave me the drive of knowledge pertaining to the Vellmori situation was also Audible Noise. Which means yes, prior to this interview even being recorded, I knew this shit was happening. Now the reason as to why I never stated this publicly is I don't gotta talk about every single thing I do publicly, but also because in the interview the founder talked about Moon Channel's gender war video, so I thought it pretty likely that he had watched my State of the Internet video, as that one specifically talked about the Korean Game Consumer Society. So I didn't need him to know that the person interviewing him was tied to someone who has voiced their concerns with the organization. However, I do wish to make it clear that even though Audible Noise is a part of this team, he is very neutral towards this situation. After all, the goal of this interview was, if the Korean Game Consumer Society can defend themselves, then good. If not, well, it is what it is. And the questions themselves were approved before the interview even happened, so it's not like anyone was really cornering the founder. But the reason I bring this up is because after the second interview was recorded, we contemplated if it should even be uploaded. Because we knew the importance behind stating that the artist hated Project Moon. We knew how that could cause harassment. Though it was difficult to answer if it should be uploaded, as on one hand, it's the truth, and the truth has reason to be said. But on the other, I didn't know if the artists were even fine with that knowledge being made public. So I said how we should ask for full permission to make this public, and he gave it. So here we are. I still don't know if that fact needed to be made public, but I thought, if he's willing to say it in this interview, then he's willing to say it in any interview. But in truth, I don't think it needed to be said, or at the very least, saying it wasn't worth risking the harassment the artist could receive. However, the reason he brought it up, from my perspective, is because he saw people making fun of the organization, saying they goaded the artist into this. And he didn't want the organization to be painted in that light, so here we are. Meaning that he risked harassment against two people for pride, I suppose. Now that reasoning is strengthened in seeing his emotional reaction to this comment.
And I did not kill the two artists' career. They're doing just fine, and I did not push them in front of the drama. We are protecting them as much as possible.
Okay.
So I just beat the grifter allegations, and
it also coincides with how he released the certificate of contents against Vellmori's wishes to paint his own narrative. Also, it makes sense why he keeps asking Project Moon to do what the organization tells them to do, and say that she did nothing wrong and that they should call the people who harass Vellmori incels and idiots. This is in spite of the fact that Project Moon hasn't said she did anything wrong. Only if you do mental gymnastics can you really think their original tweet was implying that. And his desire for Project Moon to obey his commands means he's willing for them to do something that will cause Vellmori, the reason the Korean Game Consumer Society was formed, to be even further harassed. Then my thought on his character is furthered when he said he'll drop any lawsuit if Project Moon just has a chat with them. Really? You will drop a lawsuit for that? Isn't the opinions of the two artists more important in deciding who gets to drop this lawsuit? As you said, they feel disgusted that their work is being used by a misogynistic company, so what the fuck does a simple conversation do in healing that fact? Again, it just seems like his desire to be right is far more important than doing the right thing. It's like when he read the comments saying how unprofessional he was being in the first interview, and his response was just, well, this isn't the BBC. Yeah, it isn't, but guess what? You're doing the first Western interview for your organization, in which you are representing your entire organization. The bare minimum you could be responsible in doing is acting like an adult and not just shouting out swears or saying how the lolly porn stuff is so funny as that is classified as child porn in Korea. But in response to the question, he didn't say, yeah, I wasn't professional, I could have conducted myself better. He didn't take accountability and just deflected. And this thought boils over into how he wants Project Moon to have a talk with them, but he doesn't acknowledge leaking private documents against Vellmori's wishes, even making a joke that he'd never do that, in spite of the fact that he has done that. Then when he was called out for having an Arcalive account after saying how the people on it are racist, misogynistic, terrible human beings, he just goes, nah, it's fine for me to have that, only used it for lolly and rape porn. Then after he said Project Moon has not shown themselves to be better within how they protect their artists, he has shown a prime example of how they have stepped in to defend an artist and he just went, nuh-uh. And also, little correction on just who was harassing them. It wasn't people who hated Vellmori, it was the red bands. Now, the Red Bands are a group of defenders, more accurate to say offensive defenders, of the Korean Game Consumer Society. The name refers to people who have the red band in their Twitter profile pic. In case you're wondering where that came from, well, here's the auditor of the Korean Game Consumer Society pulling it up for everyone to use. Now, what has this wonderful group of people done? Harassment. Let me pull you back a couple months. I made a tweet saying just how much I missed Vellmori's art style, as frankly, it's fucking beautiful. Now from there, a fair bit of red bands completely misunderstood just what the hell I was saying. They thought I was shit-talking Vellmori's art style, so they tried to harass me over it. Here's one that prepared a little notice in English about the Vellmori situation that contains so much misinfo, which I've already broken down in this video. One saying I have no conscience to be playing the game right now, another one saying how it's rude for me to criticize the victims of thought verification, which, thankfully, I was not doing that, but instead heaping out praise. And the funny part about all this is, the reposts on all of these posts are also being spammed out by other red bands. Some still have it on their profile pic, though most don't at this point. But as you can see, it's a movement where this group will be at someone's throat, harassing them over, in my case saying Vellmori was goated. But another example of what they do was when a Limbus Power was happening, and from what I've heard, a Power is a Korean thing where an account reposts a ton of stuff about that game, finding it using the Power hashtag. So when the red band saw the one about Limbus, they sent out ton of hates using the Power hashtag, which meant fans of the game who use that hashtag to see Limbus stuff saw, if you're going to enjoy controversial genres, either keep it quiet or stop being such a fucking show-off. Since we don't want to see you, just go bury yourself in the ground. Wow, nobody wants to see your art, so why don't you just get lost? But honestly, worrying about the fangirls participating here is pointless. They're just women by gender, but their minds are probably like incels. Well, I guess they'll get along just fine, getting their art stolen on DC and being stalked. I'll be damned. We power-scaling women. Never thought I would see the day. I've spent 60 minutes thinking about how to kill Kim Ji-hoon with all my heart and soul. You seriously have no sense, do you? Aren't you embarrassed? Hey, you bastards. The game you love so much just ended up firing a person because they listened to toxic users, and yet you still want to talk about it publicly? Aren't you ashamed? Don't go around saying you're human because it's embarrassing to even be the same species as you shameless people. Damn it. For Limbus users, I hope you get into a car accident 3 times a month. Actually, I'll change that to suffering from stalking instead, since car accidents could involve others. Hey, Limbus users, how about starting the new year by dying without putting up a fight? Man, I gotta say, reasonable people all around. Now again, reason for all this was because Limbus Company is a controversial game, so the harassment makes sense. Hell, even the auditor of the Korean Game Consumer Society agrees, so this shit might as well be company sanctioned in my eyes. Fuck, they even went so far as to use the hashtag for the Power in an unrelated post. And turns out the Power even pissed off the spokesperson. And to show what else they've done, I'm gonna operate differently here. The thing I say will be talked about in the most bare bones way possible as to avoid any more harassment being thrown at this individual. So much so to where I won't even be showing any proof. So you can feel free to entirely disregard this segment if it does not meet your proof standards. To me, it's better you feel that way than for this individual to be harassed. However, I have seen all the proof about this personally, though if you think it's something the red bands would never do, then feel free to ignore this. But there was a time where the red bands were harassing someone, including doxing them. And when this was brought up to the Korean Game Consumer Society, one of the members ended up just aiding in that harassment, showing that end of the day, they didn't care at all, and had knowledge about just how bad some of the red bands have been. Which then makes me wish to bring up this DM Audible Noise had sent the founder, in which he said he didn't care about the red bands, despite the harassment which has been brought up to the organization. And you know who else the red bands went to harass? Millie. Yep, the band that, you probably recognize some of these songs. If not, listen to them. Now the lead of it, Casey Way, made a post supporting Project Moon, and from there the red bands decided to harass her, going so far as to sign Millie's email up to a porn website so they got spammed by it. And the harassment didn't end there. It continued even till April of this year, with this tweet springing up because of Millie doing a song for Arknights. You can see this as the tweet was posted the same day the song became public, where someone posted, "That group is fucking hilarious too. They can't even support the victim's position. You want to suck the ass of a collaboration from a famous director of a famous company on a topic that's all about friendship and the fucking work environment and thought validation that's all about a friend's mistake? You fucking assholes who grind your brains into asphalt. Didn't one of your songs feature a mermaid committing suicide by drowning herself in a bathtub? Why don't you take that as a virtue to strive for? Fuck this shit, stick your nose in it and die." And you may be thinking to yourself, well, this movement isn't really endorsed by the Korean Game Consumer Society. The auditor kinda did with their power post, but the harassment wasn't supported by them, even though one member did help lead harassment against an individual being witch hunted, but I'm sure they don't endorse it against Millie. Well, here's the video where the auditor of the Korean Game Consumer Society liked the post telling the band members of Millie to kill themselves. Yep, they liked this. Which means that some people in the company have seen the extreme harassment the red bands have done, and they decided to like that post. A post telling a woman, amongst the other band members as well, to kill themselves. Liked by a member from an organization founded to stop harassment against a female employee for ideological verification. There's a lot of irony I'd like to poke fun at, but I find it difficult to do so with just how fucking disgusted I am at seeing this. But thankfully, the founder has shown that he doesn't care and that the Korean Game Consumer Society doesn't command the movement. Granted, in place of commanding it, the auditor sent out the red band for everyone to use, has liked posts telling the members of Millie to kill themselves, used a hashtag the red bands were spamming for harassment, had an employee of the company further harassment against an individual the red bands were mobbing on, and oh yeah, the spokesperson of the Korean Game Consumer Society also had a red band in their profile picture. But I mean, hey, who's really counting? And some may say to liking the message telling the members of Millie to end themselves. For Korea Twitter, a repost is valued more than a like, as a repost shows active engagement whilst a like is more commonly used as a bookmark. And this is true, that's generally how it works in Korean Twitter. But remember when the founder talked about Hwanmin Kim liking that lolly hentai doujin as a way to show support for the artist? Yeah, same logic applies. That like has directly shown support for the harassment against Millie, especially within how it boosts it in the algorithm. But enough of talking about all the old harassment they've done, we're here to talk about the new one. So the people sending harassment against Project Moon for that chibi in Kanto 6? Yeah, the red bands were convinced it was from Vellmori, so they were harassing the company because they used her art. It wasn't from people who hated Vellmori, or at the very least, it was not solely from people who hated Vellmori. If I were to hold a guess, I'd say both the red bands and people who hated Vellmori were spreading harassment. But the founder doesn't want to bring this up. Why? I couldn't tell you. Maybe he isn't that knowledgeable about the harassment, much like how he may not have been knowledgeable about the director of Project Moon receiving a death threat. As you see, a Twitter user threatened to kill him, amongst many others, but that specific death threat was later reported to the police and they got in contact with Jahoon, and he did not press charges against the person threatening to kill him. Meanwhile, Megamind over here is saying how he wishes to sue random people on Arcalive. And that's what I mean in saying that it feels like the company wants to prove themselves right in place of actually being right. They bribed people to protest for them, defended one of their members for liking child porn and selling body pillows of lollies, in the process belittling what Vellmori has went through. They also released sensitive documents against her wishes, want Project Moon to bring up this controversy again even though that would mean she's harassed further, tried to paint one of the most used sites in Korea as a home to incels despite the founder having an account on it for lolly and rape porn, ignored the victim in the shift up case so he could go after his ex-idol, was willing to send harassment against two artists to prove he was in the right, and the company has shown support for the harassment against various individuals and Millie. All of this born from someone who was mad their ex-idol fired an employee. Well, it's not like he has any actual proof that she was fired. And the company has spent all of this time talking about Project Moon in place of actually helping victims in need. And that is why, from what I've seen, I don't believe the company practices the morals they preach. It all feels like anger is what drove the founder in making this company, and now he's thrashing about like a petulant child whenever he doesn't get his way. Either by calling everyone who disagrees with him incels, racist, misogynist, or by suing them when he doesn't like what they're saying. Which is hilarious to observe the double standard as he said over and over just how much he dislikes the defamation laws in Korea. But I suppose those people on Arcalive deserve to be sued because they hurt your fragile fucking ego. In fact, I believe him doing the interview was due to his ego as well, as Audible Noise reached out to the founder about a year ago for an interview and he was ghosted. Now it could be because the founder was busy at the time, or maybe he just honestly forgot. Or he could have decided on this interview after seeing the Western community's negative reaction to them being involved in the lawsuit, which would help make sense as to why at the beginning of the first interview, he said to contact him before running your mouths. And when you add on to the fact they have a monitoring team for Arcalive and have just recently hired one for the global side of things, yeah, I think it's likely this interview was born out of him wanting to improve his reputation for the western side of the Project Moon fandom. I mean, Jesus Christ, he even wanted to do an AMA in the Limbus subreddit. And yes, I am being particular with that wording. Project Moon fandom. As to put it simply, this motherfucker just seems obsessed with Project Moon, and Jahoon, weirdly enough. Now, as we all know, he said the organization was made because of Vellmori, not especially for victims, but particularly because of Vellmori. If it was for victims, then the shift-up case would have been amazing for him to help, but he didn't. The anger against Project Moon is what drove the company. And I suppose that anger is still being held by him as he's refused to acknowledge how his protests could have stressed the employees of Project Moon. Refused to admit that the company is improving and stopping harassment by shutting down the pseudo-Korean Game Consumer Society sponsored harassment group of the Red Banners. And funnily enough, when he was talking about that, he said how the post didn't paint Jahoon in a better light. Now, let me break it down for you. The goal about that post didn't fucking matter in regards to the person you're obsessed with. It wasn't to paint Jahoon in a better light. It was meant to stop harassment, something you have shown blatant disregard for. Then when he said Jihoon is seen as an outcast in the gaming sphere, he didn't care to acknowledge about how half a month ago, Hypergriff had invited one of the founding members to an event, and he just tried to say how that didn't mean anything. Then he also keeps calling Jihoon misogynistic when that same founding member who has been in the company for years is a woman. And also, Casey Wei, the lead singer of Millie, remember the one that was being told to kill themselves in that post the auditor of the Korean Game Consumer Society liked? Yeah, she's also a woman. But I'm sure Jihoon just despises them like he does all women, according to the founder. Or hell, maybe they ain't one of the good women like how the Red Banners were ranking them prior. Maybe they too are just incels, like apparently everyone who doesn't fully agree with the Korean Game Consumer Society and view them as gods are. But this pure fucking anger at Jihoon is honestly weird to me. Like, it's one thing criticizing how someone is running a company and pointing out the flaws there, as there are some to find within Project Moon, as apparently Jihoon is known to be very emotional. We've heard of this because on a website where employees can make reviews of a company, some have said as much, in addition to the management being poor. However, if that criticism is to be brought up, we also need to say how the overall rating for Project Moon on that same website is a 4.2 out of 5, which is abundantly high. However, funnily enough, whenever people go to criticize Project Moon's workplace and use these reviews, they usually don't seem to bring that fact up. Couldn't tell you why. And that sort of dishonesty is what I really dislike. And we see it on full display whenever the founder sees his ex-idol do something remotely good. Now, to be clear, there is criticism to make, but it's another story when you're obsessed with saying that the posts reducing harassment don't put Jihoon in a good light, when that's not the fucking purpose of them, or that Hypergriff inviting Project Moon out to an event actually doesn't count as a good thing because many companies were invited as well. So it's not like it was something special for Project Moon. That's when you change from someone who is criticizing a company legitimately to just sounding like an angry soy jack. Honestly, I hate to use that comparison. It's dumb as hell, but it feels apt. Now in truth, this video might as well be a two-parter, as provided he sues me, then everything I've speculated about his character will be proven true. And then I'll probably make another video and dig deeper because honestly, this shit was only halfway through the iceberg. I just didn't want to dig deeper for two reasons. One, I genuinely hated every second of making this video. I make content for fun. I want to spread joy and talk about the things I'm passionate about, which is why these past two videos I've hated making, but I felt reason to, as someone needs to say this shit. I just wish it wasn't me. And the other reason I didn't care to go further is, I've already stated where the Korean Game Consumer Society needs to improve themselves. There isn't much else to say. Because the thing is, I personally don't trust the company at all. To have members that would so blatantly support harassment and have overarching goals that a toddler can see the problem with, I just think my support would be better spent elsewhere. Now that's not to say the organization hasn't done anything good. After all, they helped raise money for an artist who was being witch hunted due to someone else drawing the Megalia symbol. That's right, they didn't even draw that shit. It was someone else and they were harassed for it. And those 6 articles, even though it's basically just one, have helped shed light on that situation. So they are capable of doing good, and I want an organization like this to be amazing, to help make change. Which is why I'm critical of their flaws. As just because their goal is something I could agree with, doesn't mean I am about to ignore everything I've seen which flies against the morals I have. After all, that's not support, that's called blind devotion. Which is why I want them to improve. But after looking at all the publicly available records of them, I don't believe they care to improve. And I don't believe their supporters care either. They're basically a fucking cult. They've already gone to the lengths of defending child porn to cover up for Hwan Min Kim. Do you really think they'll give a fuck about anything I've had to say? Yo, fuck, the supporters will be cheering to see the organization backing up the post saying the members of Millie should kill themselves. Honestly, from my perspective, anyone who claims to be knowledgeable about the Korean Game Consumer Society and still supports them like they're gods just means they're fine with all the behavior I've talked about. They're fine with the child porn, the harassment, the frivolous lawsuits, the blatant disregard for the artists. They don't give a shit. And I was gonna have a segment where I went through all the misinfo the supporters of them are spreading, but what's the point? Those people have already shown immense support for these actions. What the hell does calling them idiots do? It's a waste of breath. Now, as to why they're fine with supporting all this, I genuinely don't know. Maybe they believe they're in the right. Maybe they've made this entire thing an integral part of their personality. I couldn't tell you. I can, however, say that the double standards are hilarious. They talk shit about Project Moon, saying they'll sue people for defaming them, saying how they're going to use it against anyone leveling criticism against them. Then the Korean Game Consumer Society does that, and all of a sudden, those same people have gone silent. Said how unprofessional Project Moon was, then the founder comes into an interview acting like a 14-year-old on Xbox Live. Again, I hear nothing but crickets. Says Jihoon hates woman, meanwhile homeboy over there be salivating to their corpses, and nobody cares to bring that up, yet are convinced that Jihoon is the CEO of misogyny. Ignore the fact that one of the executives in Project Moon is a woman, by the way. They also claim to really care about not spreading misinfo when 0.2 seconds after the Korean Game Consumer Society made their statement about the current lawsuit, the good friend of the founder straight up comes out swinging with misinfo, needing to make an addendum to it later after thousands have already seen it. And we also got this handy English-made image created from the red banners that is ripe with misinfo. Or we can bring up how the members of the Korean Game Consumer Society have made articles about the Vellmori situation, and in them, there is so much misinfo, but who cares to speak about that? And lest we forget the fact that people say even if you point out the flaws with the Korean Game Consumer Society, that doesn't wipe away how everyone else is going after Project Moon. When the reality is that only the Korean Game Consumer Society is still going after them. For whatever reason, after the Youth Union's investigation, they apologized and praised Project Moon. Wouldn't be able to tell you why they did that one. 'Tis truly be a mystery. So the hypocrisy is funny, but it's also pretty sad. You can straight up walk to a cult member, I mean supporter, of the Korean Game Consumer Society and say, the youth union that did an investigation of Project Moon has apologized. The IT union also has no more business with Project Moon. Their certificate of contents also reveals that Vellmori had left the company on amicable terms. Any NDA wouldn't really protect Project Moon from a lawsuit by her either, yet she's never sued. And the reason Project Moon hasn't brought most of this info public is because it will 1000% result in Vellmori being harassed if the company brings it up on an official level. Yet those same people will look you dead in the eye and say, but it seems to maybe possibly be the case that you can somewhat reasonably interpret from the vague wording of Project Moon that Vellmori was possibly 1 million divided by 1,000,000,000% fired, and to get confirmation of this, we should make it so she gets harassed even more. Y'all are idiots. Then they say, oh, the Westerners are the only ones who like Project Moon, most of the Koreans hate them, pointing towards the opinions against them on Twitter. Meanwhile, in reality, more Koreans use Arcalife, and Arcalife has a more favorable outlook about them, but I suppose we should just disregard their opinions. After all, they're not the right kind of Koreans or some dumb shit like that. But end of the day, I do want to clarify that even though I brought up all this stuff, I don't want to act as if the negative things I've said paint the entire content of the people in the Korean Game Consumer Society. As again, since I've never personally sat down and talked with them, I don't like acting as if I fully know their life story. That doesn't sit well with me. But as an organization, this criticism holds weight, especially when you come to the realization that people are giving their hard-earned money to this organization, which is actively using Vellmori as a fucking advertisement for themselves. Whilst in actuality, only one member briefly talked with her and, oh yeah, he was the one which sent out the Youth Union's apology to Project Moon on his personal Twitter account. Only joining the Korean Game Consumer Society because the Youth Union wasn't down with his tweets that can be reasonably interpreted as threats, and also that he was reducing what Vellmori went through as he tried to defend Hwan-min Kim from selling lolly body pillows and making visual novels that violate the Child Pornography Act of Korea. So that is why I feel this video needed to be made, to bring up all of these publicly available records that show legitimate criticism for the organization, as I don't feel as though one which holds the goal of stopping oppression within the gaming space should also show support for people being told to kill themselves because of their ideology within supporting Project Moon. To me, that feels a bit at ends with the organization. But I mean, hey, the supporters are probably happy to hear all that, so glad I was able to make someone happy from this video. Though, maybe that isn't the only thing I want my videos to do, as after making content for a while, the want of spreading a good message in my videos is something that has been a goal for me. So I don't want to make this video where I criticize the Korean Game Consumer Society and have it be used as a tool for people to downplay the gender discrimination in Korea, as the idea of that happening makes me sick. To put it in maybe the most mild way possible, people have been killed, raped, sex trafficked, and witch hunted because they're women. And yes, that is the mild way to put it, which is not even taking into account situations like the shift up one. To put it simply, it's absolutely vile. And because of this, you see some women take the opposite stance, mirroring how bad men have treated them. And how can I sit here and not see where they're coming from? When you've spent years of your life being discriminated against just because you're a woman, at points really noticeable moments of discrimination, or at others, very tiny things that build up in your mind over time, it's human nature to be mad. Hell, if you were to summarize human history, you could do it in one sentence. When pushed, they pushed back harder. So when someone snaps after spending more years openly discriminated against than I've spent living, how can I not understand the anger they feel? And from my understanding, when someone snaps and mirrors what they've experienced, that is then used as an example of feminism and is lumped in with very normal ideas of feminism, like speaking out about South Korea having the lowest glass ceiling rate, which the lower it is, the worse living conditions are for women in that country. And they've had the lowest one out of 29 total countries for 12 years in a row. For gender income disparity, there is a 31.1% difference between men and women, which is almost 3 times the average of 11.9%. And that data doesn't even represent a fraction of all the horrible stories of discrimination you can find. And it is for this reason that I feel the need to state these concerns with the Korean Game Consumer Society. When you have such a vile situation, I want the people helping it to also not support messages telling others to kill themselves, not be open about liking what is classified as in Korea, not willing to spread harassment and reduce the importance of it. And oh, yeah, I don't want a founder that is so obsessed with Project Moon to where the entire organization was made because an article misinformed him of a firing, but his obsession is also so potent to where he said he'll continue to harass Project Moon if he loses the copyright case. I'm sorry, but to have someone like that running a company that is using Vellmori as an advertisement as he proceeds to be obsessed with his ex-idol, yeah, I want to support a more professional company to help with the vile gender discrimination in Korea. But I mean, hey, I suppose having that concern makes me an incel, because we should just so readily lump those with concern with those who want to kill women. I'm sure that doesn't downplay the misogyny at all. And if the concern isn't that I'm an incel, I suppose it's the fact that I'm a Project Moon fanboy, because I suppose playing a video game means you cannot have any concerns about an organization. That's dumb. But that's it for this video. Though I will say, if you have any corrections to make or sources to add, please email Audible Noise. Their email is on screen. They have been looking into the situation ever since it started, getting links from everywhere, getting translators to verify information, talking to the Korean Game Consumer Society, and storing the information for all of this time. If you think the info brought up here is a lot, we have hundreds of links to all of this shit. The amount of info is staggering. He has literally spent hundreds of hours researching this and actually searches for proof in what is being said. So if you have anything to add, feel free to email sources to him, because he's most likely making a gigantic, probably hundreds of pages long document about this entire situation to tell the truth about what happened. So if you think any info here is not accurate, or if there's stuff to add, please email those sources to him, because telling the truth is what matters the most. As out of any controversy I've seen on the internet, this one is by far the most ripe with misinfo. But with that being said, I am hopefully never making a video like this again, as I just don't like peering into someone else. I mean, why do you think this took so long to make? We already had all the info for this video in about 2 weeks, maybe less. I've just been slow in making it because stuff like this doesn't sit well with me. I'd much rather talk about situations such as this in a more general aspect, such as my State of the Internet video. And I especially want to end them with a high note, as even though I've said how people can just ignore what they see in a video to fit their own narratives, I want to do my best in spreading positive messages for my community to be incredibly chill. I mean, it's not like I can fully do that, I'm not your dad or anything, but I can try and make a positive change, so I will. Which is maybe a silver lining of this video, because I feel like all of this needed to be said. But I didn't feel the need to go to the other half of the iceberg because I just don't want to. But if the founder responds how I think he will, then, well, we'll see how that goes. But I will say, it would be a shame if everyone downloaded this video and, in the event of it needing to be deleted, we had thousands of people post it all over the internet. It would suck to see that happen.